Hello. So I mentioned in the last video that Rachel doesn't really show her true colors in the first one the way that the other Animorphs do, or that we find by being in Jake's head. Um, and the throughout this book, when we're in her head, we do get more of a sense of her in general. But the um, one specific incident that happens early in the book is, I think, the most clear picture that we get of the girl that we will then follow through 60 plus more stories. And that is, she's walking home from gymnastics class, and she's in a bad mood because she's trying to figure out uh, what's going on with her friend Melissa, and she's trying to figure it out for, she feels, the wrong reasons, and I will get into those reasons. But then something happens that is it's another one of those things like Cassie and the Cop in the first one, that it reads differently in a more enlightened world. It reads differently post Me Too movement than it did back in the 90s, and that is she's walking home and some guy pulls up his car and then gets out and not only tries to get her into the car um, with what he probably considers to be flirtatious language. But when she refuses, he follows her, and when she starts running, he starts chasing her. And this, again, didn't really register as like a common problem that all women might face when I was 11 or 12 or 10 or however old I was when I read this. She is, I think, 12 at the time. I think that's the age where the Animorphs start out. And this guy, obviously, he's driving a car, so he's over 16. She thinks he's in high school or even college. And now he's chasing her, trying to get her into the car, calling her baby, all that sort of thing. And her reaction to this, I know she tries to run away. She thinks there's a chance she could run away, but she decides that what she wants to do to this guy is, at the very least, scar him emotionally. And she starts turning into the elephant. Not she doesn't want to turn completely into the elephant. She just wants to get herself enough into elephant woman form that when she turns around and looks at him, or when she stops moving, he bumps into her, and she's a big solid semi-elephant. And then she turns around and looks at him. She wants him to be afraid, and she probably, if he didn't back off and run away, she probably would have done physical damage. So not a situation that she should have been in, or that he should have put her in, but her response to it is very, very aggressive and reckless, because sure, she has this weapon that she can use to defend herself physically, but in doing it, as I think this is one of the things that she doesn't tell people that she did. No, she does, because they have a conversation about it. She puts the secret that the Andalite bandits aren't Andalites at risk. And, you can go back and forth over whether or not the secret is worth keeping over her defending herself against whatever might have happened, or not just continuing to run away for longer. But that's the conflict inside her. Just how reckless to be, why she's so reckless, why she finds herself in these situations. She wasn't supposed to walk home. We even know she was supposed to go to the mall, call her mom, and then get picked up. And when she gets home and her mom asks, "How did you get home? You were supposed to call me." She fortunately has the latter half of her journey, which is Chapman, assistant principal Chapman picked her up when after picking up his daughter Melissa. So Chapman and Melissa are the main focus of the story here. Not wanting to involve Tom more in because he's actually related to Jake, and they don't want to either clue the Yeerks into someone close to Tom being an Andalite bandit or get Tom in trouble and potentially killed. They decide to go to try to get at Principal Chapman, Assistant Principal Chapman instead. And they have a convenient inn, which is Melissa historically is friends with Rachel. But Melissa has been uh, a little aloof lately. She's been withdrawn. She hasn't been as friendly. And so Rachel, like I said, is trying to rekindle their relationship, uh, and it doesn't go well, in part because Rachel feels like she's doing it for the wrong reasons. Like she's only doing it to get uh, at Chapman, and so it doesn't go well. But she does sense that there is something really wrong, and when she morphs into the Chapman's cat in order to spy on them, she finds out that Melissa feels like her parents don't love her anymore. And the reason she feels that way is not that her parents don't love her anymore, but that the Yeerks in her parents' heads can't convey that. They are purely about the Yeerk mission, and so they respond to her kind of the way that the cat responds to things that are neither a threat nor prey when Rachel becomes the cat. The cat instinct is to just completely ignore anything that is neither of those things, which is what Melissa is to the Yeerks that control her parents. We find out that whereas her mom just went straight for getting a Yeerk in her head, apparently, or was very easily taken and agreed to become a controller, the only reason that Assistant Principal Chapman did is because the Yeerks promised not to take his daughter. Apparently, that it was either him or her, and he said, "Not my daughter." And I guess eventually Mrs. Chapman agreed with that, because in the scene where the Chapmans try to fight back against the Yeerks in their heads, both of them do, and that is concerning the threat of Melissa being infested. And so that is the theme of the book. The theme of the book is Rachel, who was kind of on the fence about joining the fight before, and her cousin Tom is a controller and she wants to fight for him, but her bigger picture fight is the idea that Yeerks do this to families, tear families apart this way. And Animorphs, the series is very good about representing different kinds of families. Cassie and Jake both have perfect nuclear families, but Marco, we know his mother is presumed dead. His father is completely broken up about that. Tobias never knew his father. His mother abandoned him, and his aunt and uncle, who are supposed to have charge of him, don't care about him, don't notice that he goes missing. Rachel's parents are divorced, and she rarely sees her father. But her mother's working hard for them, and for her and her sisters. But so it's similarly to how trans kids had someone in Tobias to look to when there wasn't a lot of that sort of example in literature, in pop culture for them to look at and see themselves. Kids from non-traditional families, from quote-unquote broken families, had people to look in, and the importance of family is the big theme in this book, and Rachel's thing. She mentions that when her parents got divorced, she thought that it meant that they didn't love her anymore, which is what Melissa is feeling about her parents who are still together and just acting weird. When Rachel in cat form gets captured and she's being taken out of the house, it's Melissa's cat. She looks like Melissa's cat. Melissa sees this, and she starts, again, begging to know what's going on. Why are you taking my cat away? What did I do? So, yeah, that's... it's not one of the books that's like a big turning point in the war against the Yeerks, but it's definitely a building block of what they're fighting for and why they're fighting against the Yeerks. So let me see if I can think of more that I wanted to say about it. The ending battle is interesting, more low-key than the ending battle in the first one. There's another cool morph from Visser 3 who is nicely sinister here again, and we learn that he can turn into a creature called a Varnax, or something like that, I don't know if it's specifically evolved to suck Yeerks out of the heads of hosts, but or if it's from the same planet as the Yeerks are, but the fact that he can turn into one is very disturbing to the Yeerks. And the way that Innis 226, Chapman's Yeerk, talks about him, you kind of get here early evidence of dissension within the ranks, that the Yeerks aren't just following the orders without questioning them and without frustration. So there's that. And, oh, one more thing that I wanted to mention. At the end of the invasion, when Jake gets back from the battle, at which people died, Hork-Bajir died, Taxons died, it is hinted that Cassie killed the cop controller that had captured her and taken her down to the Yeerk pool after giving her trouble previously, but is not stated explicitly, so I don't know for sure that that's what happened. All she says is that they won't have to worry about him anymore. And he did know too much. But after that, Jake gets back from that, and then he goes to bed, but he has trouble sleeping. He's shivery, he's cold, he's nervous. It's not good, and it's the first look at the kind of trauma that kind of battle, which they are going to experience over and over and over again, will have. But there's also a lot of trouble that they have, especially in the sleeping department, from morphing. And in this case, in order to lure Fluffer, the cat, out of a tree so that she can acquire him and morph into him, Rachel turns into a shrew so that the cat will come down and be available to be grabbed by the others, and therefore she can use it. But as a shrew, she at first loses control of the animal, and she goes in the direction of where she can find food. And the food that she finds are maggots feasting on, I think, raw meat, dead meat or something like that, rotting flesh, I think. And then she has a nightmare about it. And she wakes up screaming. Her sister, I forget which, I think it's Jordan, wakes her up while she's screaming, and she gets up and she throws up. And this is what these are, and then later on Jake says, "Did you have the nightmare? Because I've had nightmares, and you went through something where you'd probably have a nightmare." And she's a person who is reluctant to talk about any kind of weakness. And throughout the book, she says that she, in order to avoid doing so, lies frequently. And some lies she comes clean about because it's important, but some she does not. And some she can't. Like when Jordan, before they both go back to bed, Jordan says, "Is something happening to you?" She's concerned about her older sister. "Is something happening to you? Would you tell me if there was something happening to you?" And Rachel says, "Of course I would tell you if something was happening to me. Let's go back to bed." And she is lying because she can't, for Jordan's own good, tell her about the whole alien invasion thing. So more dark themes in one of the more interesting characters in the franchise. Yes, I think I will leave it there. I think that's all I wanted to say about Animorphs number 2, The Visitor, Special Edition 2.0, Ram the Blade Ship.